Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fourth Tier Fever. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to this week's review show. We've got 6 more games to cover this week, and we've heard your feedback. We are going to be changing the games up a little bit. There'll still be the odd mention of Grimsby and Gills. I know we've covered Gills to death quite a lot, but we will have our say, as will Harry, who we'll probably introduce again in a minute. But we're going to be approaching things a little bit more differently. We have heard you. There's a little bit to go off this week. A few missed penalties, another 3 goals scored by Swindon Town, and a certain Colchester player who decided to release his inner Sheamus from WWE with an unreal bro kick for a straight red card, which I've got to say, we'll get to it. But seeing that red card was one of those round ones. It's a real pet peeve of mine, I'll be honest. But anyway, you don't want to hear. I mean, you sort of kind of want to hear that. But anyway, I'm Jordan. Hello again. As mentioned, we are joined by Harry making his full debut. Of course, if you heard the sort of Gillingham pod last week alongside Jack Mitchener, of course, who we brought on as well, you'd have heard his lovely voice already. But he joins the crew on a permanent basis now. We've got him tied down to a deal, which we're very delighted with. But Harry, how are you doing today? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, back for more after the Gills takeover pod. Now all the Gills fans are coming out of the woodwork. Now we're actually winning games. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. You know what I'm going to say is your usual housekeeping stuff before we do start this podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, if you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new around here. If you're listening to it on our streaming platforms, of course, make sure you download it wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you to Sky Bets, as always, for sponsoring this podcast. And of course, we always like to hear your thoughts. So get those comments. Make sure you follow our social medias. Make sure you follow our Twitter as well. There's a lot of stuff going into that at the minute. And we really do appreciate all your support, especially on the last few pods. They've been very well received, so thank you for that. Right, okay, let's get straight into it. 6 games to cover. I mentioned we're going to talk about Swindon. We're going to do just that. The side that have gone top of the league on goals scored. We were having a conversation about it. They're obviously tied with points with Gillingham at the moment on 18, but just the 2 more goals scored in terms of goal difference. I mean, if we're talking about between the two sides, Swindon have scored 5 more goals in total. Yesterday, Ian Holloway's men ran out 3-1 winners at home to Harrogate Town. We're struggling a fair bit themselves at the minute, Harrogate, after a pretty strong start to the season, I think we should say. I mean, they were coming into this one on the back of 3 straight league defeats, losing to Crawley Town last time, but previously losing to Bromley and Chesterfield, whereas Swindon, there was on fire. 3 straight wins for them at the minute, including a 3-1 victory against Barrow in their last game. But they won by the same scoreline in this one. They were losing this game to start with. Jack Muldoon opened the scoring for Simon Weaver's men, and it was a ball. It was a ball through to play Muldoon. It was a good run in behind. The original shot was saved by Ripley, but it's gone straight back to him. You could probably question the defending on that a little bit. I know we can talk about Swindon's firepower all we like, but I think some of the defending on some of the goals has been a little bit shambolic. But let's not do that just yet. Let's have a look at the goals that they did score, because again they've scored 3 wonderful goals. It's safe to say. Great header from Clark for the equaliser. Great ball in from Joe Snowden. And as mentioned, beautiful header from Ollie Clark, the captain, I believe I want to say. I could be wrong there. To equal it at 1-1. Now for the second goal, Aaron Drinnan. We'll mention a bit more about Aaron Drinnan in a minute, but we should probably mention it. From what I've written, I've actually done some research for once. From what I've written, the ball from the keeper was played. Munro won the initial header to find Glatzel, who flicks it back to Munro in the box. He skins his man and finds Clark. His shot is saved, but Drinnan's there to head home pretty much into an empty net. It's just a lovely work goal, and we've come to really see that from Swindon. Straight from the goalkeeper as well, just the initial header, and then Munro and Glatzel still got so much to do there, and they really did that really well, and they complement each other really well. And Aaron Drinnan again with the third, very lovely goal. It's got to say, it's a great ball through from I think Ollie Clark again, and then you see Drinnan who sort of just feints his man and just buries it into the bottom corner to seal all 3 points for Swindon Town. Look, Swindon are firing. Another 3 goals scored on home soil. Players playing with confidence. They've gone top of the league already. Yeah, it's not been bad being a Swindon Town fan at the minute, and I know I've got my issues with Holloway, and I'm going to keep him quiet for a minute because I can't deny he's doing a wonderful job at Swindon Town at the minute, and he's playing some of the best football I've seen a League Two side play for a little bit. I've got to say, I think Harrogate is no mean feat either. I think you could say all you like about Harrogate. I thought you could always see they've always got a trick up their sleeve, do Harrogate, and it was going right. But there has been times in which you do really see maybe the cracks of the squad. You know, they're not got the biggest budget, they're not got the biggest squad, and they don't have the best players in the league. Good players, but not the best. And you can really see that they're starting to struggle after a pretty promising start to the season. It's got to be said. And it's sort of just falling apart on these games. Yes, you could probably look at the games that have had some tough ones in that, but look, taking nothing away from Swindon, it just looks like at the minute they're just blowing every team away, and it's another 3 goals scored. It's a very good habit to be in, and they find themselves top of the league from it.
Yeah, I mean, Swindon really impressed me with their attacking variety yesterday. They were really effective in the central areas, but they exploited the width well and created danger through sort of individual skill. And you spoke about the through ball and sort of their attacking from the flanks. The hallmarks of a good team are teams that have different sort of attacking avenues. I sort of was looking into the stats a little bit. I've done a bit of research myself. We must be on it tonight.
Yeah, we must be.
Yeah, exactly. So Swindon, 5 shots from Drennan, 3 shots from Clark, Glazette, and Palmer. If you're getting different avenues of attack, you're going to score goals. They are top of the league because they've scored more goals than Gillingham. I mean, it's not the hardest thing to do, but you score goals, you win games, and that's how Holloway's doing. I know you have your own thoughts on Holloway, but he is sort of getting this Swindon team ticking. And yeah, you're right. Harrogate, they had isolated moments for sure in that game. They really sort of lacked that sort of finishing quality to stay in the game in the second half. In the first half, they went ahead. I was thinking myself, will Swindon, can I trust Swindon here? That goal just before halftime, I think, was important because I think that sort of changed it a bit. Holloway would have had a different team talk at halftime. And then, they came out in the second half firing. I think the quality of that third goal in particular was really impressive. The way it's the through ball, the run. That's a real hallmark of a good team. I said in the podcast, in the Gillingham Takeover podcast, that I was impressed with Swindon's transfer business, and I think that's sort of coming together now. They seem very well structured. Ollie Clark, Aaron Drennan looking really good, and then players like Ollie Palmer, coming in. It's a bit of a dangerous prospect, and I know Gillingham are going to have to play them at some point, and that's going to be a good game. There's been a lot of games between us and Swindon. We see it as a derby, but they've not been too interesting because we've sort of been playing in the middle of the table. It looks like that game could be very spicy when we get to it.
Yeah, very well could be. I've been having a look at some of Swindon players. Obviously the quality. I mean, Ollie Clark was again top draw yesterday. And you mentioned about some of the signings that they've made as well. Yeah, I'll probably agree. It's a very good. I mean, it was already a decent squad as it is, as it was. Bringing Connor Ripley back permanently, I think, was big. A couple of others as well has really gone in there. I really like the look of Munro. I think he's new, from what I recall. I think he's had a real strong start to life there. So is maybe the likes of Joe Snowden, who I don't think he's probably talked about a fair bit, to be fair. But I've really liked the look of him. But it's not even a new signing. I think you've really got to look at Aaron Drennan last few games. Look, last season, I'm just reading it off here now. 28 appearances in the league and only 3 goals scored. He's already doubled his league tally this season in 8 games. Another 2 goals for him. As well, he's a man in form, and as you mentioned, especially the third goal, it's a lovely goal from him. But it's even better for the fact that you've got a man who is it's just full of confidence at the minute. And again, I go back to that freedom factor that I think Holloway likes his teams to play. He likes his teams to go out and express themselves. And you're really seeing players really stepping up to the plate. And especially with Harry Smith's injury, there was clearly a big void there. Yes, they brought in Ollie Palmer, which, again, another good option. And even he's on the bench at the minute. I mean, that's the sort of thing they got. He clearly trusts Paul Glatzel. He's clearly played his part in these games. Probably would like a few more goals. But he's still doing his bit. But yeah, I mean, super impressed with Aaron Drinnan in particular at the minute. It was the clever intelligence to get his head onto the second goal, and then that turn and that shot, it just absolutely buried into the bottom corner. And again, one that's certainly benefiting under the coaching of Ian Holloway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're getting 5 shots in a game and they're good chances, you're scoring 2 goals from them, and you're doing that consistently. Well, he's going to score. He's going to score a bag for him. Keeping Ollie Palmer on the bench is not a bad thing to be doing, is it? Because you've got someone there, like sort of we've got Sam Folkes coming on, experience, someone really that can push on and sort of get you a late goal if you need it as well. I'm worried about Swindon from a Gillingham point of view, but from a League Two point of view, they're looking great.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, if we're going to be ultra critical, obviously the defending. I know that yes, they can score the goals they like, but I mean, they're defending for the Muldoon's goal. The defence was no man's land. It was a clever ball. It was a clever thinking move from Muldoon, but it was just absolutely nowhere. And they've conceded a few goals like that. I guess that's sort of the risk you sort of take if you know that your team are absolutely locked and loaded with goals. But if you're winning games and if you're winning them by comfortable score lines every week, which are sort of really, I don't think you can complain too much, really. Harrogate, another defeat for them. They're 4th in a row. A blip in form, or is it starting to be a concern? Because I think you look at the teams they've played. I mean, Chesterfield and Bromley, they've lost both of those games. 2 good teams, especially Chesterfield. I don't think you really argue. Losing to Crawley last week, losing at home 1-0 to them, was a pretty poor result. I think it's got to be said. And especially that was a Crawley side that hadn't won at all going into that game. So it was obviously a big result for them, but it was hugely disappointing for Harrogate. And then they've gone to Swindon. Yes, albeit it's a long old trip, and against a Swindon side who are absolutely flying at the minute. It was always going to be a big ask, but one, like I said, Harrogate have potential to sort of grind out results. Couldn't do it in the end because Swindon's attack it's just a bit good at the minute. I think it's probably fair to say. Is it a blip or is it a bigger problem?
Well, I think if from a Harrogate point of view, you would have looked at the Swindon game as a bit of a free hit. Harrogate Town, let's face it, they're doing well. Their aim is always to stay in League Two. I'm sure Harrogate fans would agree. If if you're there, there's a chance you're going to have a great season, a good group of players, you get pushed up. But staying in League Two is always the aim. And probably they're blocking the games and go, well, was Swindon a game that we was going to look to win or hope to win at the start of the season? Maybe not. You've got to get the points against the teams that you know are going to be around you in the table. And I think so. They won against Barrow. Would you say Barrow are probably going to be around there? Maybe. Those are the games where you've really got to sort of push on and get. Swindon, I'm not sure. I'm gonna put it down to a bit of a blip. Go for it, a bit of a free hit. The fans would have been very happy when they went 1-0 up, hoping that something was going to happen. But I think you can see the Swindon, sort of the quality comes out. And there are differences between sides, even in League Two. Everyone says, everyone can beat everyone on their day, but you can sometimes see that little bit of extra quality. And I just think Harrogate didn't have it on the day. But we've seen time and time again, season after season, they pick up points against the teams that they need to around them, and that is what's keeping them up in the league.
Which is sort of why I'm not worried for them at present, although they could do with getting just something just to stop the roll, even if it's just a draw. I've noticed their next game is against Shrewsbury. Instantly, you look at that game in which you've got to pick up points from that after a sort of form that you've been on. So, huge game. It is, yeah. I think for both at the minute, and we'll get to Shrewsbury in a little bit. But look, good win for Swindon, top of the league. and they're absolutely flying at the minute. Let's go from Swindon to Crewe. I think this is a really interesting game, actually, and one that really piqued my interest after really deep diving it. They took on Barnet, obviously a side in which have had a mixed bag of results. I think more worse for better at the start of the season. I mean, Crewe were coming into this game after a 1-1 draw with Colchester. Probably a good point in the end because, as we've mentioned before, it looked like Colchester's second half performance probably was enough for them to pick up 3 points. As for Barnet, a real disappointing loss last week to Shrewsbury, handing them their first win of the season. And it looked pretty poor throughout, I think it's got to be said. But no goals in the first half, but a goal in the second half in the 54th minute. Real good finish from Tommy O'Reilly to put Crewe 1-0 up. In that game, it was a good pass to find him from that, and he took his goal really well. No chance for Kieran Slicker in goal. And then I think everything started to unravel from there a little bit. Barnet got their equaliser a short while after that one. It was a little bit of a mess. I think the deflection sort of helped in terms with the pass there with Lee Unlove, I think, if that's how you say his name. Lee Unlovu, sorry.
If you want, yeah.
Yeah, you know me and my name pronunciations. They're absolutely horrific. But it was a really interesting ball from Adam Senior for the initial ball to sort of just creep through to find him and then just and him unmarked into a tapping into an empty net to draw them back level. And then this is where things get interesting. I know it sort of did there, but it sort of does there. 2 penalties Crewe were given. I think you probably look at both. I think they are both penalties. Josh March took the first one. I think it was a good height for Kieran Slicker. Good save from him, nonetheless. He's still got to be there to do it. And then the second one, it was changed. I think Max Sanders took this one. I thought it was a real weak penalty straight down the middle. But again, it's a very intelligent save from Slicker with his feet, crashing off the bar as well. And Barnet were able to get that away. Terrific from him, whatever you say. I think he's probably... We were quite critical. Well, I was quite critical of him last week. Probably not on this podcast, but in terms of watching like some of the stuff he did and a couple of the goals last week, he was really poor for. But when you thought that it looked like he earned his team a great point, they've gone and picked up all 3 of Barnet. And again, it's a real messy goal. I think it's got to be said. And this is what I wrote. Bit of a mess from for the winner on Crewe's end with the keeper spilling it from Ufferbor's shot. I think it was his. The rebound then hit. The rebound then hit the crossbar. Dimitri's clearance fell straight to the feet of Ryan Glover, who then managed to find the net third time of asking for Barnet to pick up a very good 3 points away from home. Now, look, it was critical from Barnet last week. I think the man of the goals and just the overriding performance. But if you take that out of it, their last 5 games, they picked up 3 wins, a draw and a loss. So going to Crewe, who have had a very good start to the season. They sort of tailed off a little bit in the league. They're now 4 games without a win in the league, 3 defeats in a row. No mean feat at all. And to leave it as late as they're done, and it's taken a little bit of inspiration from their goalkeeper to get the victory. But nonetheless, it's a terrific win on the road for Dean Brennan's men.
Yeah, a massive away win. Going into this game, bookies, predictions, Crewe were the ones. Crewe, you bet your house on Crewe to do something and get a win. But Barnet, Slicker, what a moment. Fans are loving him. Fans are absolutely loving him. Earning, as you say, on the face of it, was a point. And then coming up right in the last for a winner. Yeah, that's why you go to these away matches, these long away matches, and you sit on the coach and you go every week and you wait for a moment like that, don't you? Where you get the 3 points, your keeper saves 2 penalties. You're right. I do think the penalties were weak. I do, but Slicker, he does what he needs to do, doesn't he? He's there and he makes 2 good saves, to be honest. And penalties aren't easy to save. That's why they're not saved very often because they're tricky. So
unless you've got Jace Cabia taking them for us, in which it's very straightforward for the keeper, as we'll probably get into.
Maybe, yeah, you might have a good point actually. But I mean Barnet, massive 3 points. They're looking they're looking like that sort of underdog team. They've taken that sort of underdog mentality, and that's what they're going to run with this year. And I think they're going to be fine this season. Actually, results like that sort of show that they're there to grind things out. They're not there to be beaten. And I mean, as the week goes, it's been a good week for the two teams that got promoted into League Two from National League last year, with Barnet and Oldham both picking up wins. So yeah, I mean, it's a great win, massive away, 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely is. Look, it's taken Barnet a little bit of time to get going. We know that. Not so much in the games. I think overall, I think stat wise, I think, load of possession, loads of shots in their games, but they were just being undone by at times stupid decisions. And I think that's what cost them the most in those games. But no, they're really starting to find their feet now. I always got that feeling once they got that first result, I think they'd have really kicked on, and they really are starting to kick on now, as we probably expected them to do. I think a lot of people expected them to do quite well. They've had a good summer, and the way they won the National League last year, I don't think is anything to be sniffed at, especially beating York to it and picking up over 100 points. So they're clearly a very good team, and Dean Brennan's been building there for a good period now. So they're sort of buying into his style, his standards, and what they want. I know they've had a busy summer. I think you can maybe argue, as mentioned before, the the amount of change that they've had. There've been a lot of additions coming in, but I think there were some that were quite a lot that were necessary, and which no doubt has made the squad stronger, if I can say that right. But yeah, absolutely. Like I said, they're really starting to find their feet. And look, we could talk about the goals pretty, a little bit of fortune for both, you've got to say, especially for the winner. But look, they've managed to find a way through that, and you'd imagine that. I think you'd have liked that Kieran Slicker would have been handed a free beer after that one yesterday. I mean, two penalties. I know we've mentioned about maybe the penalties weren't the greatest in the world, but again, you've got to be there to make the saves, and he's done just that in 90 minutes as well. So full props to him. As for Crewe, though, I'm really. I mean, they sort of get what they deserve, really. I know 2 penalties weren't great. I mean, they took the lead in the game. I think they could be bitterly disappointed by that. It was quite an even game. Stats-wise, I think you look at it, fairly even. I mean,
yeah.
So, it's a real tough one to sort of say. Certainly not what they needed in sort of what their recent league form, taking the 7-1 against Chesterfield aside, 3 defeats from their last 4. I felt like it was a real downer of a result, really, especially for the fact that they could have scored more goals as it is. There's a lot of if, buts, and maybes about that result for me, from what I get. But they've had golden opportunities to take the lead in that one and take some more from the game, and they failed to capitalise on it. And especially with the run that they've gone, it is really not what they want.
No, I mean, the Crewe fans will be very disappointed. They've had the chance there to win the game 3-1 with the 2 penalties, and somehow they've lost the game 2-1. So it's one of those where, from a Crewe fan point of view, that's a hard one to take.
It absolutely is. Maybe a penny for thought for Lee Bell. Certainly some penalty practice might be on the agenda in training this week. But
I won't be surprised if he's not taking them in the future.
Yeah, but they've got an interesting couple games coming up. They go to Barrow next. They've got Notts County then. And then they've got the likes of Harrogate, Bromley, and MK Dons. And then they've got Grimsby after that. So they've got some tough run of games coming up. After the first sort of few. So really the next 3. I mean, Barrow, Harrogate in particular. You've got to be looking at points from those games, especially, like I said, I know we've mentioned about how they've been on at the minute. We had mentioned I thought it was a real good draw against Colchester. I can't remember who else they played now at the top of my head. They were beaten by Swindon quite comfortably. The game was lost at half time and they were pretty poor throughout. Probably deserved more at Gillingham as well.
They did deserve more at Gillingham, but as we always do, it's 1-0 and on to the next one.
Just a Gillingham way, isn't it? So they need to be picking up more points than what they are at the minute. And after the start of the season as well, you sort of do trust that a little bit. But we've sort of seen this story before with Crewe, hence why I'm a little bit pessimistic, maybe perhaps, but we'll have to see on that one. Let's go to our next game. Salford City are a side that I'm really liking at the minute. Got some real good ability in their squad, a lot of experience, a lot of know-how, and you're really starting to see it really being moulded into a Carl Robinson squad, ones that are hard to beat. They know where the net is, can play the pretty stuff, but also are aggressive and are a tough nut to crack. They went to Shrewsbury yesterday and picked up a 3-1 victory. Look, we should probably mention Dan Udo, of course, a late summer arrival, deadline day, I think it was, from Wycombe Wanderers, and he's looking like a real shrewd piece of business at the minute. In his 2 games, I think he was it 2 goals, 2 assists, or like 3, something like that. But he started life really well there. Lovely finish from him for the first goal. Brilliant weighty ball from Kadeem Harris, has got to be said. Shrewsbury found their equaliser through Sam Clucas. I don't really know how that's really bundled in. I think it maybe took a slight nick, but I'm not 100% sure.
It looked like it was sort of bouncing around. I mean,
it sort of did, didn't it? Yeah, but they'd have taken it at the time as it was their equaliser. Ben Woodburn, great free kick for them in the last 10 minutes or so, and then Dan Udo still got a lot of work to do with the last goal. It's in a D just outside the box. He sort of spins around his man, finds that bit of space into the box on the left-hand side. He's just buried his shot right into the bottom right corner to give the Yammers all 3 points. Now, we know that, look, we've been speaking to Jake a lot. We've been known that Salford, out of anywhere, needed a half-decent striker that they could rely on. I think you probably do look at their options. I think there's only so much you can watch of Cole Stockton. Good player, but I'm not sure. Well, I'm not sure that will get Jake's seal of approval, but certainly, I think it certainly needed more. And Dan Udo's come in, and he certainly hit the ground running, isn't he?
He has, and I mean, against your former club, getting a couple of goals, his celebrations were a bit muted, but you could tell inside that he's buzzing at the moment. I mean, Salford, they're looking like the team. I think you look at teams sort of and how they're doing early doors and the start of the season, but Salford seem to have something really going there. Danadu, good player for this level, and he showed it there. 2 goals, really quite clinical, effective in the attack. Salford, they were creating chances again from all areas, really. Sort of counter-attacking, set pieces, really sort of high effort attacks. And I mean, Shrewsbury, Salford that's going to be quite an easy game, Shrewsbury by the looks of it. But you can see Salford are sort of, they're pushing on, and they've got a bit of a tactical style and sort of shape that's really working for them. And if they keep going, they're going to be dangerous, very dangerous.
I just think they look like the real deal. I think there was that group that little section that sort of finished in around the playoffs last year. Salford was one. I'd like to think Grimsby were another. And I think we mentioned Colchester at the side. We'll get into Colchester a little bit. So they've obviously started much slower than compared. I certainly saw those 3 as certainly teams to look out for, because they'll probably just get better. And I think Salford have absolutely nailed that. Obviously, Dan Udo, we know we've mentioned him. Of course, he's hit the ground running. Kadeem Harris has started life there pretty well. Bringing back Matty Young back for another season, I think is huge. I think he's a top goalkeeper for the level.
Yeah, really solid.
And even some of the existing players that they've already got, like Luke Garbett. Like I mentioned, Cole Stockton does have a goal or 2 in him. I think Haji Minogue's still kicking about there. There's a couple of players. Osama actually still hasn't gone anywhere. Albeit he was on the bench for this one, looking at it. And you see the bench as well. I mean, Ben Woodburn came on. Aluwo, another new signing, has started life really well there. Massive centre back. And I'm just looking forward to seeing more of what Nicolas Siri has to offer the Uruguayan striker. Sorry, not Argentina.
Yeah, that's an exciting player. That is an exciting player.
Just one that's just completely unknown, isn't it?
Exactly. I love that sort of player. Yeah.
It's something different that we don't know about, so we can't just complain. Right? Okay, he's crap, but because no one has seen him. But No, look, I know, we've not even mentioned, the lack of Michael Rowe's championship experience. They're just a solid team. Everywhere you look, they've got some real good quality. George Grant as well. They're going to take some beating. Matt Butcher. Look, this isn't a love story to Salford City. This really isn't. But it's just the way they're set up, and under the management of Cole Robinson, as mentioned, top manager for the level.
Yes.
It really looks they're going to give it a good go this year. I think this is the most optimistic I've been about a Salford City side since they've been up into the EFL, because they've had decent squads, they've had good squads for the level. They've certainly had a lot of experienced names, and for one reason or another, they've just not really worked out the way that we've maybe expected.
No.
I know they've got a new approach with their. I think they've sort of changed it with their board. I think the whole class of '92 has sort of stepped back a little bit. And there's some exciting plans for Salford going on. I think there's a rebrand potentially coming. I don't know. There's a lot of exciting times for Salford at the minute.
It's exciting. It is exciting. I mean, they were the original Wrexham before Wrexham were Wrexham, weren't they? They had the BBC documentary when they were in non-league. That sort of got a lot of eyes on them. And then when they got up in the league,
to that standard, have they?
No, they haven't. And they've sort of been in the league for a while, which has meant that sort of some eyes are now off them. As you say, class of '92, they're stepping back a little bit. It could just be in their favour that, those eyes are now off of them. Not everyone's looking, Salford, Moneybags team. And really, they weren't as much of that as what people really thought at the time. And yeah, they're really sort of coming into their own. And this is a good squad. This is a really good squad. And, injury-free or lack of injuries. And they could they're going to be up there. They're going to be up in and around.
I totally agree with that. I think they've had a couple of injuries themselves to deal with, but they've still got the depth to deal with at the minute. I really like him. As for Shrewsbury, look, we mentioned last week, them winning at Barnet, great result, much needed result. Obviously, they've had a miserable start to this. They've had a miserable start to the season. They've not even looked like winning in a lot of those games, really. Shipping goals, not really seeing much of an identity to them. So last week at Barnet, probably a little bit. It was a little bit of a joyous day for them, probably, perhaps. They've not had much to celebrate over the last year or so, even in League One. So it was certainly a good day. I wanted to see them get something from this game to back it up. I think you probably do look at the game. Probably unfortunate to not get more of it, but ultimately, it's another defeat, and they're really starting to struggle at the minute. They've now dropped to 23rd, 5 points. In the relegation zone on goal difference at the minute compared to Newport. Just a 1 win, as we've mentioned. 16 goals conceded already this season, which is the most in the league. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go with him, truth be told. Harrogate next week, massive game. It's just a massive game in which I think they've got to win. They've got to win. I think for Harrogate's sake, as I mentioned, with Harrogate, I know there is it's a big game for both, really, when you think of it.
Yeah.
Harrogate, lost their last 4, and then Shrewsbury have had a miserable start to the season. They both have to win that, really. I know only one can, but they've got MK Dons after that, Barrow, Cambridge, Crawley. They've got some half favourable games coming up, but I don't know. I still don't know about some of the aspects of the squad, and I still don't know about Michael Lapperton. I really don't. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go.
I've seen this story before. I've seen it when Gillingham came down into the league. I've seen it. It's hard. It's hard. You've had a bad season up in League One. You've come down, and you try to rebuild, but there's something that just keeps drawing these losses in, and you try to put your finger on it, and it's not, and results aren't going your way, and somehow you end up Christmas time absolutely foot of the table, and you're staring non-league in the face. I do think the Shrewsbury fans will have a little bit of hope in the signing of Chunksineke. He's massive for them. If he gets scoring, they'll be fine. But they are putting a lot of faith in a player who has been injured, and there's a reason he's come down to League Two, and it's not because he's still the player that he was for Charlton a few seasons ago. But he could be the sort of the key to sort of helping them get some goals. Because that's really, looking at this game, that's all they were really lacking. They were sort of lacking that cutting edge, and as soon as Salford had a bit of something between their teeth, they went for it. But if you can get some goals in there, you'll be in a much better position. And it's not looking great for Shrewsbury at the moment. It's really not. They're going to need something. As I say, we were lucky as Gillingham. We were saved in the January transfer window, and we managed to get out. But it's tricky. It's tricky down that bottom of that table. As soon as you start finding yourself with a squad that isn't ticking, it can go downhill very quickly.
And it's not ticking at Shrewsbury,
No.
on and off the pitch. I know we mentioned on the pitch, but off it, it's not much better. They need fresh impetus. I know we've said that for a lot, but they're going to be dragged into it if they're not careful. I think questions do have to be asked of Mike Clapton because his record's appalling. But ultimately, yesterday, you also caveat that they've lost the game because of Salford's quality, eventually, really. And that's it, really. They've got to bounce back from it. Like I said, that Harrogate game is big for both.
You've got to. If you're a Shrewsbury fan, you've got to get yourself up for that game and really push your team into that win, because that's going to be a massive game. You look back at the end of the season at games that were massive. That's going to be a big result if you can get one there at Harrogate.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next game. We go to Boundary Park this time. Look, I've said with Oldham, I think, especially the last few podcasts, I think they have been unlucky at times this season. They've not been sort of I say dinosaur team. It's probably not it, but they've always looked like they can do stuff. And whether that's for one reason or another, mainly because of their lack of finishing, but some of the chances they were creating weren't really a problem. Like I said, they just deserved more. On the whole, I think it was always going to be a tough game against Bromley coming into this one, unbeaten to start the season. Very nearly picked up that victory against Gillingham last week. If it wasn't for Gareth McCleary, who's been suspended.
We won't talk about that. That's actually crazy, but it's probably best I don't talk too much about it because my mind's blown with that decision.
Yeah, but nonetheless, Bromley started well. Unbeaten start to their season. And look, we've mentioned about Andy Woodman quite a lot on this podcast, especially I have. I've really warmed to the bloke. He's doing a terrific job there. But I always thought a result was coming for Oldham. Then winning at Cambridge last week, I was thinking to myself, right, okay, this is the catalyst for them to really ignite their season now, because I think they've had a fair few draws. They've not lost a lot of games, but they've had a lot of draws. Probably, like I said, deserved more out of Colchester in particular. Probably deserved more out of Gillingham in the game the other week. So to see them beat Bromley, and for them to, again, this is an unbeaten Bromley, to see them beat Bromley, for me, doesn't really come as much surprise. Actually, Mike Fond up with the goal in the 82nd minute. God's number 9, by the way. We should probably mention. I can't say I was surprised too much, really. I sort of half fancied Oldham in the preview the other day. Them at home, it was going to be. I think the Cambridge result would have given them a lot of confidence, and it was just looking at it, the way they were really attacking Bromley. They could have had a couple more goals as it is. They looked really up for it, and they got there just rewards in the end. Great header from Fondok, great cross from Tom Conlon, and back-to-back wins for Oldham now. And things are starting to look on the up a little bit at Boundary Park.
Yeah, I mean, a 1-0 win at Cambridge, you go, okay, that's good. That's a good. Let's make sure it's not a fluke result. And then you get a 1-0 win at Bromley against Bromley. Now you're really looking at a team that can do something, and they've taken a bit of time to get going, as you've said. But that was a great performance. It was good. It was good to see Grant Smith had healed his head wound after being assaulted by McCleary the week before during the penalty. I'm not going to get into it. But really good from Oldham. It's looking good. You beat a team like Bromley. They've gone into that game, Bromley, 7 games unbeaten. That's a tough team to get a result against, and they've done very well, sort of keeping it 0-0 until the 82nd minute, and then you're getting something, and yeah, they deserve the win from that game.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's no mean feat either. With how Bromley like to attack and some of the goals they've scored, and their front two of Michael Cheek and Nicky Kabamba have been absolutely tearing it up. Especially Kabamba in this instance, but Michael Cheek's always a danger man. So yeah, no, it's real good signs for Oldham. I thought I just felt I always just felt it was always going to be a matter of time before they really started to get something out of these games. And but back-to-back victories, and I don't think you can really complain too much. Like I said, I think probably the only thing you can complain about is the fact that they haven't got more points on the board. Maybe their own doing, probably some things that maybe have gone against them, but they're really starting to find their feet now, and it's pleasing to see. Oldham are a good club. I've got a lot of time for Oldham, believe it or not. They're a proper football club. And
they've got a nice run of fixtures coming up. They've got Cheltenham and then Barnet, so a couple of good games for them.
They certainly do. They'll certainly fancy their chances at Cheltenham as well, with how they're going. Quick note on Bromley. Obviously, a defeat for the first time this season. Currently in 7th in the table. Of course, we have mentioned that's their unbeaten start and ended. I mean, their game next week, they are coming up against Chesterfield, which is a tough game for them, but it'll be all about the response now, won't it?
It will be. I mean, Bromley, they look solid. They are that team that is going to be solid. That is going to be hard to beat. And I think at home, not a lot of teams are going to get many points against them. We were very lucky last week to get anything against them, and Bromley, they're gonna do the old thing, which is win games at home and try to get a draw when they go away. And they've been unlucky against Oldham, albeit Oldham, they were good for their win, but yeah, Bromley will keep marching on. And yeah, as you say, Andy Woodman, what a manager! Yeah,
absolutely. We'll get onto it a little bit more in the midweek preview, but that Chesterfield game could have the marks of being a real good game of football. Obviously 6th v 7th at the time, and but Bromley can give anyone a game, especially at Hayes Lane where the game is being played. It could be a real good one to keep an eye on. That's all I'll say on that one. But as I say, good result for Oldham, fantastic for them. Back-to-back victories, they're really up and running now in League Two. Because I think the longer they went without a win, I think maybe more sort of concerns, not panic as such, but sort of 1 or 2 concerns could have creeped in. But no, they're really off to it now, which is great to see. 2 more games to cover, which we picked. We're going to go to Crawley. They hosted Cheltenham Town, 2 sides that have not had the best of starts this season, especially in Cheltenham's case. Of course, with Cheltenham last week, picked up that 1-0 home victory against Accrington Stanley, thanks to a brilliant free kick from Isaac Hutchinson. Whereas Crawley, they really got themselves going with that 1-0 victory. 1-0 victory away at Harrogate. A real good finish from Reece Brown with the early goal of the game in that one. That was after taking back a point after drawing 2-2 with Chesterfield. Probably unfortunate not to pick up more for the game with them being 2-0 up. But it was Scott Lindsay's men that picked up a 2-0 victory. Harry McCurdy with both goals. I think the first one from him is a real clever finish. In fact, he's taken 1 touch, placed it into the bottom corner. Real good finish from him. And then the second one, it probably is a pen. It looked a little bit soft, but I can see why he'd give it. And McCurdy made no mistake.
Have you seen his miss that he had just before the first goal? Because it is one of the misses of the season.
It is, yeah. It is a shocker, but look, he's made amends from it, and
he has made amends very quickly afterwards. I'm sure he's very happy. And
it gave Crawley probably a much needed win, I think, considering the circumstances. And look, Harry McCurdy is a man in form. 4 goals in his last 3 games is really starting to pick up life. Of course, under Scott Lindsay, who I'd imagine he knows well from his Swindon days. But after some of the stuff that McCurdy's been through over the last couple of years, I think he's had a heart problem or something like that during his time at Hibernian. And Bromley, he didn't have the best spell there, but of course he scored against Carlisle, so it's all right. And we know the character that Harry McCurdy is. Yes. He's really starting to find his feet again, and it's really pleasing for him. It's got to be said.
Yeah, I mean, I love players like Harry McCurdy. they get you out of your seat. They're a bit of the flair players, and yeah, he's had a great game there. I was watching this game before I went over to travel towards Gillingham. Crawley looked really good. Their passing, their plays are very quick. They're quite sort of close passing, sort of moving in triangles. And yeah, they looked really good. They could have had a goal quite early on, actually, with a really good piece of passing. But yeah, I'm surprised to see Crawley where they are, actually. Sort of from watching it, it's the first time I've really sort of watched them for an extended period of time this season. And yeah, I liked the way that they were moving the ball around, and sort of they looked quite confident. And you get a player like Harry McCurdy sort of moving on form and scoring good goals. Yeah, you're gonna be doing fine.
Yeah, and I think it's taken a little bit of time for them to get going, because the first couple of games they were really poor. I know I've mentioned a few times, when they played us in the opening day of the season, already I was looking at it and thinking, right, okay, these are relegation fodder potentially. And look, they've lost to Crawley and they lost to Crewe in the first 3 games, so they couldn't have really asked for a worse start. But things started to really pick up. A good draw against MK Dons. They were winning that game. It was probably to be expected, because Scott Lindsay coming up against his
the Lindsay derby. Yeah.
The Tranmere result was disappointing. I mean, Amari Patrick just exists, so some of the stuff that he can do, and that happened. But the last few games have really been positive for them. We have mentioned there were 2 goals up at Chesterfield. Yes, they drew the game 2-2. 2 quick goals for Chesterfield in that. Had a golden chance to win it near enough right at the end, which they squandered. But it's sort of given them a bit of a lift. Like I said, Harrogate, them winning that game last week was huge. And then again, coming into this game, they're both sort of near the bottom, coming up against a really poor Cheltenham side, it's got to be said. And they've managed to get the job done. So maybe things are starting to look up for them a little bit. I think maybe the squad turnover of players, quite a lot of players brought in over the summer. Quite a lot of players I think probably needed to get up to speed, and they're really starting to see that now. Looked like a real good performance from them. Certainly deserved their victory. As for Cheltenham, I've got big concerns, to be honest. Yes, they beat Accrington last week, but really it didn't look great either way. They've won the game thanks to a moment of brilliance. They've picked up 4 points already this season, 3 goals scored, 14 conceded, and they've not really been great in many of their games. And yes, I think maybe I've sort of given Mike Flynn a little bit of slack recently, because I think there's been other stuff going on. They've had the takeover, and there's been a lot of discourse around with Johnson at the minute. Lee Johnson, that was his name. I was just trying to remember what it was.
Yeah, I saw the fans were putting up banners at the start of the game. So yeah, unrest there.
But in not so much Flynn's defence, I don't think he's helping himself either. I think the way they're sort of setting up, and the results are really proving at the minute. They've got Oldham next. Of course, 2 wins for them. They've obviously got Grimsby after that, who have had a pretty good start to the season as it is, and then they've got Fleetwood after that, pretty solid, and then their next league game after that, they've got Gillingham, who are of course unbeaten. So they've got a really tricky run of fixtures coming up, and to be honest, I think they'll do well to pick up 1 or 2 points. Really, I think that's sort of how poor they have been, and I really do think you've really got to start to look at the future of Michael Flynn now. And it's maybe a case of maybe if Flynn does get sacked, where does he go? Because he's sort of, the last few jobs he's had, they haven't been great. Got sacked from Walsall, not doing that great. Swindon got rid of him, had a very good start there, but fell off a cliff and rightly lost his job for that. There were moments last year for Cheltenham, very inconsistent. And obviously this year, it's just been, so far, it's just been a bit of a mess, really.
It's not working. It's not working.
Yeah.
I think Michael Flynn must be amazing in an interview, because he just seems to pop up again, doesn't he? Whenever he gets sacked, he seems to pop up somewhere else. I remember, the four times recently that we've had to get a new manager in at Gills, he seems to be on the shortlist every single time. So I don't know. It will be interesting. I don't think it's working at Cheltenham. I do think his days are maybe numbered there. But I don't know. Is it completely his fault there, or does he just not have a strong enough squad? It's one of those, isn't it, where you go. Watching them, their attacks were mainly consisted of putting a ball into the box or getting a free kick or getting a long throw and just hoping. It's one of those where it's just hoping. It's not really building anything up. It's just hoping that maybe a ball breaks for you or maybe you get a header on the ball. But it's tough. It's tough for the players when you're playing that sort of style, and you can tell as a fan your players are just getting the ball, hoofing it up, and it's not really. It doesn't work.
Yeah, and I think as I've mentioned, I think he has to take most of the flak for it on the playing side. As I know we've mentioned Johnson like off-field issues, but the players have been pretty appalling. I do look at the squad though. I do look at the squad, and comparing that to some of the other teams in this league, I do think it's better than a fair few teams, actually. Some of it, but again, what you see on paper is different to what you see on grass. I think I read somewhere that Sheringham has picked up an injury in that game as well, on loan from MK Dons. I think he had a bit of a track record of injuries as well, but I think yesterday might have maybe had one or two thoughts going through the head of the owner, the new owner, Mike Garlick, but we'll have to see where it goes, because it can't keep going on. It just can't keep going on. It doesn't look like they can really do a great deal, really.
No.
And that's my sort of concern with them. Look, Crawley did what they needed to do. Got the 3 points, and they sort of moved on. Excuse me. Let's have a look. We've got one more game to look through. God, I'm coughing to death. Hence why I'm still muting. At times, if you are watching this on YouTube, it is better on Spotify, I promise. Or not. Depends what you prefer. That's what I had to move. Let's have a look at Accrington. They played Colchester and they picked up a 1-0 win from that one. I mean, Accrington they've not had the best of starts of the season. Them losing to Cheltenham last week, as we've mentioned, already seemed like a really poor result in the grand scheme of things, considering that, you know, those two are probably going to be two sides that will be down there. But they're finally off the mark in terms of 3 points. Isaac Sinclair with the early goal of the game. Lovely weighted ball through from Charlie Brown. It's a very good finish from Sinclair to find the back of the net. And that was the only goal of the game in that one. I mean, a red card was shown to Aurora Edwards in the 86th minute for, as I mentioned, doing it. It'd be too much for WWE. I think that red card might have been.
Really good,
and it sort of summed Colchester's afternoon up, really. 5 shots, 0 on target in the game. Accrington fully deserved the 3 points. And like I said, it's sort of been a long time coming for them as well. They sort of had bits and pieces in which we've seen what they can do. They picked up a couple of half-decent draws, against the likes of Grimsby, and Shrewsbury probably didn't look the best of results. But they've got that first 3 points, and it's a pretty good one as well. I think it's probably said. A well-deserved one, certainly.
Yeah, very well-deserved one. It was it's tough for Colchester. That's a bit of, losing Matt Macy early on as well. That's a real big blow for them. But yeah, Accrington, they were good for it. Isaac Sinclair, that was a great moment. Summer signing, non-league side. I'm going to say Curzon Ashton. It's coming to my brain. I might be wrong.
I think you might be right.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, I remember seeing Curzon.
You are correct, yes.
There we go. Look. It's not like it was written down in front of me. So, yeah, good moment for him. First professional goal, getting a win for your team. But yeah, Colchester, I don't know with Colchester. I had them quite high in sort of my early predictions. I was looking for them to sort of push on, but something's not clicking at the moment. I'm sure it will come. But yeah, you've got your goalkeeper going off, injured early on. You've got Edwards doing sweet chin music, bro kick, whatever you want to call it, on the goalkeeper. It's one of those where you go, it's not a good afternoon or early afternoon if you're a Colchester fan. And Accrington have capitalised, first win of the season. They needed that. So yeah, good win for them. And yeah, Colchester need to have a bit of a rethink, and the Cowleys need to have a bit of a rethink. But I'm sure they will. I rate the Cowleys very highly.
Yeah, look, the Cowboys have enough credit in the bank as it is. A lot of goodwill with Colchester, especially more so recently as he's just penned a new contract with the club,
Yeah, I saw that.
which sort of lays out their ambition. I don't think he's immune from criticism. I think obviously yesterday was taking Matt Macy's injury out of the question, all that. It was a really poor display against, truth be told, one of the weaker sides in the league. But I know we sort of looked to it last year as well. That yes, they started slow and they picked up a fair bit and missed out on the playoffs. Probably too many draws in the end. But yeah, they just look like a shadow of the former self in this game. Certainly not a Cowley side. At times from some of the stuff I was seeing. I think Jack Tucker had a very reasonable game as well. He's probably been their best player.
What a player he is.
Yeah.
I was so upset when Gillingham sort of let him go to MK Dons, but we understood it at the time. And then to see him now in the same league as us really hurts a little bit. But yeah, what a player.
Yeah, absolutely. Struggled a fair bit at MK Dons, but really starting to find his feet at Colchester. I don't really know where they go. Just a really poor performance and a really underwhelming start to the season. I think it's got to be said. Next, I think there's probably has been 1 or 2 games in which they deserved more from. Probably should have taken 3 points out of Crewe. They conceded late on at Barnet for them to draw 1-0 there. They lost 2-0 at home to Barrow in that. Again, probably they looked the better side throughout. It was just a really poor day, that one. Certainly in front of goal. Lost 2-1 at home to Cambridge. Didn't seem a great deal in the game. Probably it looked like on stats wise, Cambridge just were just that slightly better. Shrewsbury, they picked up a 2-0 win there, which was a decent result. And then a couple of draws to start the season against Tranmere and Oldham. They've picked up a couple of points as it is, a fair few draws. But really, just the one win so far in the league to take into account. And that was, again, a really poor Shrewsbury side that they've picked up. And you really, their next sort of 3 games, Bristol Rovers, Fleetwood and Chesterfield, or 4 if you count Grimsby as well. Real tough games that they're coming into now as well.
I think they need Jack Payne. I think they need him to start picking up some form. He's not been there. Really, this season, he's not really done a lot. I think as soon as you get him sort of going, he's your star man. He can change games on their heads. So I think if they can get Jack Payne sort of orchestrating that attack a little bit more, I think they'll be fine.
Absolutely. I need to see more from Colchester. I think that's the moral of the sort of the notes, really. I need to see more from what they can do because they're very capable. They've got some good players in that squad. And I do feel at times a little bit this season they are slightly underachieving a little bit. But good win for Accrington, much needed. That should give them the boost now. Of course, they have played a game less. It is, we should mention, but again, the longer they went without that victory, the more you start to get concerned. So it's great for them that they've got that win under their belts. Let's run through the other games real quick. A quick run through. Bristol Rovers continued their great run, beating Barrow 2-1 at home. Goals from Josh McEachran and Fabrizio Cavane. Cavane? Yeah, the Swiss striker for them. Conor Mahoney did pull one back for Andy Wing's side, but look, a very good run of form in which Darryl Clark's men are going on now. 4 straight league wins and 5 games unbeaten 5 games unbeaten in the league as well, if you also count the goalless draw. With Oldham, 3 straight defeats for Barrow. Not really start the season great. I think it was always going to be a big ask for them to go to a Bristol Rovers side that are really starting to find their feet and pick up something in that one. Chesterfield, they drew 1-1 at home to MK Dons. Of course, we should probably mention this is or Luke will probably want me to mention this is a heavily depleted MK Dons squad. They've had a lot of players missing the game through injury. John Mellish missed the game through suspension. It was sort of found out afterwards that Kane Wilson's out until January now, which is a massive blow to them.
Yeah, that's a big blow.
Yeah, and a couple of others as well. But Russian Hepburn Murphy, probably one of their best players at the minute, alongside Callum Patterson, who got the assist, got MK Dons up and running with a 25th minute lead, but they couldn't quite hold on as Tom Naylor managed to snatch an 86-minute equaliser for the Spyrites, sharing the spoils in that one. Fleetwood drew 1-0 at home to Walsall. We have mentioned Walsall, 3 straight 1-0 victories for them, 3 straight clean sheets. And a man that's doing really well at the minute is Daniel Carnu. Another goal for him yesterday. He scored the equaliser in the 25th minute after Ryan Graydon opened the scoring for the Cods in the 16th minute. Probably, again, what I expected. Pretty even throughout, it looked like. And, a point apiece on for them in that. I don't think Walsall could be too disappointed with that. Probably neither could Fleetwood, really. It is what it is with that one. Gillingham, look, was it 20 games unbeaten now? I think I read something like that. Just a 1-0 home win against Notts County. The only goal coming by Josh Andrews just after half-time to give Gareth Ainsworth's side another 3 points. And again, just another clean sheet. They look all right, don't they? I think it's got to be said.
Yeah, looking very good. I don't know how it was only 1-0 that game. Honestly, we had loads. It's a bit worrying, actually. We had lots of chances, but didn't manage to sort of put them through. I saw some Notts fans sort of calling them a bit toothless. I thought that's a bit harsh. I just don't. To say someone's toothless, they need to be making the chances. I don't think they really made any chances at all. There wasn't really anything from them. So, yeah, good for Gillingham. Another game unbeaten. But maybe a little bit worrying that we weren't a bit more clinical. 1-0 may be a sign of, we need to make these chances count and put them in the back of the net.
Yeah, maybe so. But 3 points is 3 points, and you're not saying no to it.
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
Yeah. Cambridge were a minute or two away from victory at Blundell Park, but a late Justin Amaluza goal meant that they left Blundell Park with a draw. Of course, being at Grimsby. Look. Very quickly, I thought Grimsby were really poor in this game. Cambridge really did the homework on us, and it looked like it was going to be the perfect away win for them. Adam Mayer with the goal on the half-hour mark, where they've countered from our corner, really. It was a very good counter-attack, but it really bugs me when we concede from our own corner. They'll be kicking themselves, Cambridge, right at the end. A penalty given away by Killing Kwasi, I believe it was. Jay's Cabia took up. His penalty was saved by Jake Eastwood. That's the third penalty that he's had saved in the league this season. He needs to come off him. I love Jay's. He's really started life well here, but this can't keep happening, especially in situations like that. And they've not been great penalties either, really, especially that one. It was a good height for Eastwood. But thankfully, Justin Amaluza was there on the rebound to tuck into an empty net, which meant that we managed to get a point from it. Look, really poor day. A lot of players had off days in that one, but look, I think to take a point from that away is pleasing in the grand scheme of things. It was more than probably what we deserve. I think Cambridge probably did deserve all 3 points in the end. But it's
a good sign. Really, it's a good sign of a good season if you're getting points in games where you don't think you've been the better team. If you're doing that, you're gonna be really good this season.
Yeah, absolutely, Cambridge proper physical side as well. And I'm not going to mention that they probably should have had a red card in that game. Who else have we got? Just very quickly, Tranmere drew 1-0 at home to Newport. Of course, the FTS showdown between Jack Walton and Kieran. It was Jaden Joseph that gave Tranmere the lead in the 33rd minute, but a Courtney Baker Richardson 87th minute equaliser. The fact I've said that is mad in itself. Rescued Newport a point. Somewhat stops there. A terrible run of 5 straight defeats. I know Jack had a couple of concerns about Tranmere. Right at the end of that one, just in general, really, and that's pretty much it from the other games. You got anything to add on any of those games at all, real quickly?
Not really. I mean, it was a pretty sort of a down week for League Two. I think there were a couple of big results. The rest of them sort of going the way you expect, and those results there, sort of League Two action from some of them that you would expect. But on to next week.
Absolutely, and this is where we'll wrap up for this week. Of course, thank you guys for watching. We sort of tried to be a little bit more varied with the games this week because, again, there's only so much you can say that Gillingham are strong, and MK have spent loads of money, albeit half their team's out injured at the minute. I think there's only so much you can say that unless they have like absolute ground storming results. Not saying that they weren't, because there were good results, especially in Jill's case, as they won. But should probably mention that. But we'll wrap it up there. Like I've mentioned at the start of this this episode, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are new on YouTube. Make sure you download the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. And of course, once again, thank you to Sky Bet for sponsoring this podcast. We really do appreciate their support, and we really do appreciate your support as well. Get those comments in. Let us know your thoughts on the games. Let us know. Give us your feedback. We do read through them, and we will certainly try to take some of the stuff on board. As we mentioned, you understand in terms of watching maybe the podcast the other day, maybe for one or two reasons, probably wasn't the best in the world, but look, still great support as always. So we thank you very much for that. We'll be back for our preview show in the week. We'll probably record Wednesday. I'm at Sheffield Wednesday on Tuesday. So look, I could discuss about their the whole ticketing farce that's going on over there and what they've given us, but I can't be bothered really. So it should be a good night. But yeah, we should be recording Wednesday with a view for it to go out Thursday. So make sure you join us for that. Thank you very much for watching, for listening, as always. I'm Ben Jordan. You've been listening to Harry. This has been Fourth Tier Fever. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care for now.